What's up, everybody? And today we are reacting to SCP-106, The Old Man Escape. I'm thinking that on Sundays, because I've been doing a lot of like Warhammer reactions and SCP reactions, I think I might dedicate like Sundays to just reactions for Warhammer and SCP. Let me know in the comments what you think to that, and then I can go back to more military stuff for the rest of the week, because I do genuinely love reacting to this stuff, but I don't want it to completely take over my channel. And this and Warhammer has right now because I've become obsessed with it. So if I restrict myself, it might be better for me. I just want to know whether you guys think that's a good idea. So SCP-106, The Old Man Escape. This is by SCP Animation and Story. Sorry, Story and Animation. SCP Explained. I got told from the guys in Discord, the guys and girls in Discord, that this is a really good one, a really creepy one. I'm up for something really creepy. So yeah. I hope it's good. I hope you're right. But before we get started, as per usual, members, you're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I honestly couldn't make videos every single day if it wasn't for you members. So thank you for supporting the channel as much as you do. Don't forget, if you are a member, to join the Discord and get put in the dedicated chat. And we'll be pulling you into certain games on some of the streams. Okay, guys? Links down below to all the usual stuff. Instagram, Discord, Twitter, website, merch, my second channel, my podcast, and my Twitch stream, where I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But for now, let's shut up and let's find out about this old man, shall we? Because I've heard it's kind of creepy.
It's 3 a.m. and the facility is quiet. Office workers and administrators roam the halls. Security officers stand at their posts, clad in advanced tactical armor and carrying standard-issue M4 carbines. Three Foundation employees sit at flickering monitors watching a live feed of footage from the containment cell of the infamous SCP-106.
Looks like Gollum. Looks like Gollum, doesn't it? It's a bit like Gollum.
Or as it's referred to by all staff, the Old Man.
No
Foundation personnel are permitted to travel within 60 feet of the cell for security reasons, and nobody is permitted to physically interact with the anomaly without the approval of 2/3 of O5 Command. The observer's eyes itch and sting from hours of unending blue light exposure, but they can't look away. The Old Man is crafty. He might have the insatiable bloodlust of a hungry great white shark, but he's not mindless. He's a calculating predator, more sadistic than
So he's just an evil person? Is that what it is?
the worst human serial killer, and he's always searching for the next opportunity. According to the Foundation records, he's been active since at least World War II, and it's estimated that he has hundreds if not thousands of victims to his name, and many of those made simple but extremely foolish mistakes of underestimating him. After all, it only takes a few seconds of inattentiveness and the briefest moment of distraction to give him the window he needs. To do what, you ask? Oh, don't worry. You'll find out, just like they did. The Old Man has his nickname for a reason.
This is creepy, but it's not as kind of, or at the moment, it's not as like paranormal kind of or mystical-esque like a lot of the other ones are. So I wonder what that element of it's going to be in this one.
Of the time, he really does look exactly like that, an old man, or more specifically an old man's decaying corpse, his body covered in rotten, dark, grayish-black flesh that looks like putrid meat. Though the creature has been observed being able to change shape, the rot seems to run too deep for the Old Man to ever hide it. Foundation employees that have observed SCP-106 for extended periods of time have reported seeing it assume the form of grinning, decayed children and women whose rotted flesh barely hangs on their creaking bones. Just seeing the images through a video feed is enough to cause a lifetime of insomnia and other sleeping
That would give you PTSD and all sorts of stuff. That's disgusting.
Issues. Still, they have a job to do, and the cameras remain fixed on the Old Man. He's been completely motionless for 3 months, just sitting there like a Buddhist monk in deep meditation. A novice might see this period of inactivity as a cause for celebration, but those with experience know that this is merely the calm before the storm. SCP-106 can remain in a dormant state for months at a time. Described by the Foundation scientists as a lulling state, it's believed that the Old Man is simply waiting for its captors to get soft, make a mistake, or simply have a momentary lapse in concentration, which is
So my big thing with this, right, is it's secure, contain, protect. Are they doing experiments on him while they're protecting him? Why do they not just kill him and terminate him? Why do they have to protect him? Can they? Is it purely for science and experimental reasons, or is there a different agenda? Because if this guy's this dangerous, it's really hard to look at. If they're not doing any scientific tests on him, why do they not just kill him? You know what I mean?
which is all it needs to make its move. It had happened so many times before, and it was about to happen again. One of the observers must have felt an overwhelming wave of anxiety as he saw the creature ever so slightly twitch. just a tiny quiver in the shoulder muscles, but that was enough to tell the observer that their day had just taken a terrifying turn. He grabbed the emergency phone fixed to his desk and practically screamed into the receiver that 106 is moving, that they need a tactical team stat. But it was already too late. He and the other 2 observers stared into the monitors with their mouths agape as a gooey, rust-like substance began to pool around the creature on the floor of its cell. Slowly, the creature craned its withered neck around. Its face was fixed into a broad, yellow-toothed, lipless grin. Its eyes had the kind of dull, flat malice of an underwater predator. It looked directly into the camera, directly at them, and smiled. The observers knew this was bad. Really.
This is probably one of the creepiest ones I've seen so far. That is really, really haunting. And you can kind of imagine how creepy it is. Also, this guy does a really good job of describing what they look like in a really kind of creepy horror kind of style, and I like that.
Really bad. With what they could have sworn was a little nod, the old man began sinking into the rusty puddle it made on the ground beneath it until it had disappeared entirely. SCP-106 is capable of phasing through any solid surface with ease, making it one of the hardest entities to reliably contain, and earning it a spot on the dreaded Keter class, reserved for the anomalies that are complete nightmares to keep locked up.
So how do they contain it then, if it's just going to keep escaping like this?
Through the years of costly research and deadly trial and error, the Foundation would later devise ways of at least slowing the creature down. It's shown to have an aversion to lead, highly complex or random physical structures, and intense bright light. None of these cause harm to the creature, as far as we know, literally nothing can, but they'll at least buy you some precious extra seconds with which to at least try and escape. Seconds the 3 observers didn't have. One of them grabbed an emergency line again and barked into it that they had lost visual on the anomaly. Just then, the observers heard a faint crackling sound behind them and the hissing of a chemical burn. They turned in horror to see a huge rusty burn mark expanding across the wall, right next.
So is it like acid, like saliva? Is that what it is? But like an excess amount of it? Because that's weird.
To the door, which was their only escape route. They backed as far away from the door as they could as a rotten hand began reaching out of the mass of corrosive black sludge, followed by the grinning face of SCP-106, ready to have some fun. Meanwhile, 2 heavily armed security officers, Agents Goodwin and Resnick, came charging down the corridor toward the observation rooms. It became a bleak slogan during SCP-106 escape attempts that all you need to do is follow the screams. And that motto was proven true that night, because awful things were happening to the observation personnel. They were certainly screaming about it. Of course, even with the top...
They have guns and stuff, but the goal is to contain and protect it. So, I don't know. I get very confused about the contain and protecting thing. Like, I want to know, like, why protect, why contain them? Like, what is the ultimate goal of this SCP? I think that's something that I'll probably learn in future videos, like what their ultimate goal is, but that confuses me more than anything.
Top-of-the-line firearms, there was little they could do to harm the rampaging old man. He seemed immune to all forms of physical damage. All they could hope to do was keep the thing distracted until the scientists and containment specialists finished the preparations to lure him back into his containment cell. Goodwin surged forward while Resnick covered his 6. Vigilance was key, as unlike a standard human combatant, SCP-106 could attack from literally any angle, including above or below. Physical obstacles were irrelevant to him, and no cover was safe. The hardened security officers could see the burn mark on the wall of the observation room as they approached. SCP-106 was perpetually coated in a thick black mucus with powerful corrosive properties that left any surfaces it touched permanently marred. Foundation.
That's really gross. Like, this guy's really good at describing how gruesome this old man is. This one's really creeping me out compared to some of the other ones.
Scientists speculated that this mucus served as a kind of pre-digestive substance that tenderizes meat and bone alike. But to what purpose this serves is a mystery, as the old man has never been observed eating. It's postulated that the only purpose is causing additional pain. Goodwin and Resnick knew to treat this hissing sludge as a potential threat, as the corrosive properties would remain active for as much as 6 hours before finally fizzling out. The 2 officers shared a quiet nod before Goodwin breached the observation room door with a hard kick. The 2 of them surged inside, guns at the ready. In their time working at the Foundation, they'd seen some truly horrific sights. From the mutilation of D-Class personnel, typically...
Imagine if this was real, all this stuff. That's really creepy. Like, really creepy. I didn't get any knocking on the ceiling or anything with the Krampus thing, but That's creepy.
Death row prison inmates brought in for use as SCP guinea pigs to the violence and mayhem of a containment breach. But there was nothing in their past that would ever make the horrifying sight they saw in the observation room that night feel normal. All 3 observers were dead. Almost nothing remained of 2 of them, and the third, while still intact, no longer looked human. He looked like he'd somehow been dead 100 years in the brief period that the old man had been free. His skin was gray and completely dried out, and his mouth was locked into a perpetual scream.
Kind of
was
like
a massacre, but there
kind of like The Ring, or is it The Grudge, where like when he gets you, it's just like you've seen the movies where they all die and they're like. They were good films. The Grudge and The Ring, good
was
films.
no sign of the old man. Goodwin grabbed his radio and whispered, "This is Goodwin in Observation Room 6, requesting immediate backup. We have no idea where this thing..." But his sentence was cut off by a sudden scream from Agent Resnick. SCP Foundation security officers are as tough as nails, the best of the best, you might say, recruited from the top military organizations in the world. So hearing one of them scream in fright is a rare, if not impossible, occurrence. But even they were forced to yell out in fear when they looked up to see the old man standing on the ceiling, grinning down at them. Resnick raised his M4.
That is so creepy. This guy's so good at telling the story. Like that's giving me goosebumps. That actually gave me goosebumps.
And shot a 3-round burst at center mass. SCP-106 didn't care. Even under sustained gunfire from the 2 security officers, it didn't flinch. The old man simply reached down and snatched Agent Resnick from the ground like it was picking an apple from a tree. The old man held Resnick in one hand and pounded its other rotten fist into the agent's body, breaking all of his bones. Resnick screamed for his partner to help him, but there was no time. Before Goodwin could do anything, SCP-106 began receding back into another slimy burn mark on the wall. Only this time, he was taking his screaming victim with him. Agent Resnick gave one more horrified scream before he was pulled backward into the inky darkness, leaving the room silent except for the burning hiss of the corrosive goo left behind. You might think this would be the end of it.
Oh, like I got goosebumps from this one. It's really like creepy and eerie. Do you know what I mean? Like it's really like I don't know, like it chills you, doesn't it?
But no, for poor Agent Resnick, the worst was yet to come. He was being dragged into what the SCP Foundation scientists refer to as the Old Man's Pocket Dimension, a miniature layer of reality within our own where the malicious SCP is essentially a cruel, all-powerful god. According to witness reports extracted from victims who were taken to this little nightmare realm, the dimension resembles a series of twisting, endless corridors where the old man stalks and tortures his captured victims to the breaking point, manipulating space and time to his own sadistic end.
So this is where it's getting really weird. Like really weird. With the like mythical, like I was saying, how at the start I wasn't too sure about what that part of it was for this SCP. Now it's really going down that rabbit hole of weird stuff.
On rare occasions,
which I like,
the SCP
by the
will
way.
even release its victims just for the joy of hunting, capturing, and torturing them all over again. While Agent Resnick was learning the true meaning of terror, containment specialists were mobilizing in its cell, preparing the one known, tried and true method of luring the old man back, tempting it with the prospect of causing even more suffering. In order to do this, Foundation personnel take one of the aforementioned Class D personnel and begin inducing extreme pain by breaking a major bone or slicing a tendon every 20 minutes. The victim's agonizing screams are then played over the facility's intercom, acting as bait for the pain-loving old man. The screams echo through the facility's otherwise silent halls as the mutilated corpse of Agent Resnick falls from a new scorch mark on the ceiling. The old man can hear the sounds of suffering ringing out through the air around him, and he can barely contain his excitement over the prospect of a new plaything. The snapped femurs, the torn...
That is creepy. Why don't they... So they said that the old man's like not very good with bright lights. They should put like bright strobe lights in the room to contain it.
Achilles tendons. It was all too good to miss. Having had its twisted fun with the security officers and observers, SCP-106 wandered back to its containment cell, where a new screaming victim awaited. The other security officers, containment specialists, and scientists evacuated the area, leaving the old man alone with his prey. While the unfortunate Class D was left to his fate, the rest of the staff commenced cleanup procedures, which mainly involve wiping the brown and black mucus from the walls. It would probably be at least another month before anything like this happened again,
so gross.
and new personnel would be transferred over to the facility to replace the fallen. All in all, just another night at the SCP Foundation.
So that one was probably the creepiest one that I've seen so far. Like by far the creepiest one. And I think so the horror stuff's fun. I really like it, but I really like the mythical stuff, like the really kind of bizarre mythology behind this whole thing. Again, I also want to know more about why SCP are doing this. Like, what is their motive? What is their kind of reason for all this? That's something I want to watch. So next Sunday, I'm going to be watching either, I think it's called The Scarlet King, I think, or the one that's based in IKEA. Let me know in the comments which one of them I should watch next. I think they'll both be good to watch. But yeah, guys, SCP is something special. I will leave a link for the original video down below. Please go and send him some love. This guy is fantastic at telling stories, and he's also really good at describing some of these horrific events. So definitely go and check that out. But before we leave, members, you're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. Links down below to all the usual stuff. Instagram, Discord, Twitter, website, merch, my second channel, my podcast, and my Twitch stream, where I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Until next time, everyone, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.